Right, today we're going to talk about the Waste Disposal Act and the various elements of that and how it affects you if you choose to dispose of waste material when you've been assembling flat pack furniture. So we're just going to go into the presentation now and give you all the information about the Waste Disposal Act that you need. So this course is about waste disposal. So as an overview, we're going to give you a warning. We'll tell you what business waste actually is. We'll introduce you to the waste carrier licence, talk about the fines and costs, your duty of care, the waste transfer note, your responsibilities as a business, practical guidelines and a summary. So your warning is about free waste disposal. Taking away business waste has certain requirements. You need a licence to do it. If you haven't got a licence, you're committing a criminal offence. Documentation must be issued and retained. And it costs money to legally dispose of business waste. It costs money. It's also time consuming to do it, and you can't burn it anymore. And fly tipping is definitely illegal. So it's a service that's costing you money to do it and taking your time, and you should charge for it. We'll explain why in more detail as we go on. So what is business waste? Any waste that comes from a commercial activity is business waste. If you use part of your home to run your business, then any waste from that part is business waste. Disposing of your own waste, you must register as a waste carrier if you want to dispose of your own business waste regularly. So licences. Licences for the disposal of waste were introduced on the 1st of January 2006. That's 14 years ago. And this has been a law since then. And since then, it's been a criminal offence to transport waste of any type without a waste carrier's licence or a waste disposal licence, unless it's from your own home to a local waste disposal or recycling facility. DEFRA manage and enforce the law. Initially, they did very little to enforce it, and recently DEFRA have become far more active. The Environment Agency, which is part of DEFRA, and the local councils are starting to enforce the law on DEFRA's behalf. If you remove business waste, you will need to keep on top of the latest legislation and how it is enforced. Here's an example of a licence issued by the Environment Agency, and you need a certificate like this if you're going to remove waste. You must register for a waste disposal licence or a waste carrier's licence if you do any of these things as part of your business. Transport waste, buy, sell or dispose of waste, arrange for someone else to buy, sell or dispose of your waste. If a customer asks you to take away the waste packaging and dispose of it, it automatically becomes business waste and you must have a licence to do so. You can be fined up to £5,000 if you don't register for a licence. Disposing of waste illegally is a criminal offence. DEFRA do a small number of spot checks on vehicles they suspect might be carrying waste. Registration is usually free if you only transport waste you produce yourself. Otherwise, registration in 2019 cost £154. So here are some examples of fines that have been dished out in 2019. So a £3,000 penalty for an illegal waste carrier. A Bradford man pled guilty to operating as an illegal waste carrier. A vehicle seized and the waste carrier was ordered to pay almost £5,000. £1,760 in a fine, plus the costs of almost £3,000. And in May, a £500 bill for an unlicensed waste carrier in Foston, Derby, was successfully prosecuted by the Environment Agency. And all these people, all they were doing was transporting a small amount of waste. Some of them were doing it regularly, some of them as part of their business, and some of them just taking stuff to the tip for customers. This is what is being enforced now. Once you've registered, you will appear on the public register of waste carriers, brokers and dealers, and you'll be told whether your registration is in the upper tier or the lower tier. You must renew an upper tier registration every 3 years and it costs you £105 to do it. You don't need to renew a lower tier registration. You are likely to be a lower tier if all you're doing is removing waste packaging from flat pack furniture. The upper tier is for more hazardous waste in general. This is a screenshot of the Environment Agency website, which holds the public register. And if you've got a license, all you have to do is search in that lookup box there with the name of the company or the registration number, and you will be found. You can also just search in general by region and so forth. So it's easy to find out whether you've got a waste carrier's license or not. Your duty of care, and this applies to all businesses producing waste, so whether you're going around to people's house and taking it away as part of your job, or whether you're running a shop or other office or anything, you need to keep waste to a minimum by doing everything you reasonably can to prevent its production, reuse things, recycle or recover waste, and do so in that order. You need to sort and store your waste safely and securely. Complete a waste transfer note for each load of waste that leaves your premises, and check if your waste carrier is registered to dispose of the waste. So you've got to check that the person you give it to has a license. Not allowing a waste carrier to dispose of your waste illegally, and you're supposed to report anybody if they do so or try to do so. So the whole recycling mantra is reduce, reuse, recycle wherever you can. Sorting waste for disposal. Generally, the waste packaging from Flatpack furniture falls into two categories. You've got cardboard and paper, which can easily be recycled, and most facilities will take that off you free of charge. Non-recyclable waste: polythene, polystyrene, plastic, nylon, metal hardware, small tools, protective strips of plastic, hardboard, reinforced cardboard. All these things are non-recyclable. The instructions as well: never throw these away, always give them to the customer because they contain safety information and warnings. So don't throw the instructions away. A waste transfer note. For each load of non-hazardous waste you take away, you need a waste transfer note. You can include this on an invoice or download specific notes from .gov.uk. You must include enough information to help the business taking your waste handle and dispose of it safely. This includes the type of waste and how it's been separated. So your business and the business taking your waste need to fill in the applicable sections of the waste transfer note, or WTN, sign it and keep a copy for 2 years, and show it to an enforcement officer from your local council or the Environment Agency if asked. This is typically the sort of thing you'd have on a waste transfer note. The first section gives you a brief description of the waste and how it's contained: loose, sacks, drums, etc., how much the waste is and what its actual type is. The second section says who actually had the waste to begin with, so either who produced it or who was carrying it. And the third section says who's actually taken the waste off them and taken it away. So basically it's a control of how the waste is transferred from one person to another, or one business to another. So as a waste carrier, you have certain responsibilities. You are responsible for making sure the waste you carry is handled safely and legally. You must make sure that you only pass waste to someone who is authorised to take it. If you do not check and keep proof of this, you could be held responsible, especially if your waste is disposed of illegally, such as fly tipping. You need to take your waste to a site where a valid waste management licence exists, and make sure the site is authorised to receive your particular types of waste. You should also ask the site manager to show you his original documents. Now, if you go to most waste recycling centres, these are actually posted on the wall and you can see them quite easily. But you do have some responsibilities there to ensure you're disposing of waste you've taken away properly. So your waste carrier's responsibilities: you are responsible for making sure that the waste you carry is handled safely and legally. You must make sure that you only pass waste to someone who is authorised to take it. If you do not check and keep proof of this, you could be held responsible if your waste is disposed of illegally, such as in fly tipping. You need to take your waste to a site with a valid waste management licence. These are clearly displayed at most of these depots where you can take these things to. So you need to make sure the site is authorised to receive your particular type of waste, and you should also always ask the site manager to show you the original documents. As I say, they're on display, so you should be able to see them quite easily. In terms of practical guidelines, based on our experience when we used to dispose of waste, Cardboard is very easy to get rid of. It's got a value of about 20 to 30 pounds a tonne. This varies depending on what the demand is like. Most private recycling companies will take it from you free of charge, or balers. Council run waste facilities will actually charge you for it. Polystyrene, this is the biggest form of waste beyond cardboard you'll have. No one wants it. Absolutely no one wants it. And it's so expensive to dispose of. A small bag could be about 50 or 60 pounds in some places. We were quoted by Viridor, who operate Greater Manchester Waste. This is 5 years ago now. The minimum charge was £293 plus VAT to take a van onto their site and dispose of it. So polystyrene is incredibly expensive to get rid of. Other ways, such as polythene, etc., expect to pay to dispose of it, and you could be charged anything from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds a bag to get rid of it. So the cost of disposing of waste, the big cost, is the non-cardboard, non-paper variety, and it is expensive to do. So in summary, if you're going to remove waste packaging, you must have a waste carrier's license and issue a waste transfer note to your customer when you take it away. You've got to dispose of it legally and receive a waste transfer note wherever you dispose of it. And you've got to keep receipts and records of how you disposed of the waste and match your waste transfer notes that you've handed out and the ones you've received to ensure that all the waste has been recorded properly. It's onerous, and considering the customer can take it down to the council tip themselves and dispose of it, it strikes me as a daft thing to do. But you will get customers who want you to do it. So it's up to you whether you go ahead and do this, but make sure that if you are going to dispose of waste, you do it legally and operate within the law, because you could get sent to prison, you could face unlimited fines if you don't operate it and do it properly. And also, if you do it and you just don't have a license, well, that's a £5,000 fine, or in that sort of region. So it's expensive, and you need to take control of this area and do it properly. You need to be aware of, many companies, IKEA included, now put the customer's name and address on every single box they deliver. So if the waste is being disposed of through illegitimate means, it can be very easy for someone to trace where the waste came from, trace it back to the customer, because of one of these address labels that's on every single box. You'll also find that just a quick aside, we're also putting together a professional Flatpack assembler training course. It's a generic course, it's the first one in the UK, it's all online, and it's just a series of videos talking about the various things that's required. So there's an inventory of the tools you'll need, legal issues, waste disposal, which we just talked about, how the British standards affect you, and some notes on health and safety. All these three things are actually necessary to become a registered assembler through the Flatpack Assemblers organisation, but they're part of the course as well if you want to do it all in one go. Basically how various components work, from mini fittings to various types of hinges, just going through all the hardware that you'll encounter. We've got a few methods of engineering out silly mistakes, so you don't drill holes in the wrong place, you don't use the wrong screws, and you don't make stupid mistakes which can creep in. Tips and tricks to speed up the assembly without affecting the quality, so you can get more done and earn more money. Some methods for managing the customers and their expectation. So I'm just going to show you a video now talking about an example component, so you can get the idea of what we're actually going through. So here you see a hinge, nothing too unusual about that. And here's another hinge, nothing too unusual about that. But both these two hinges go on the same wardrobe. This is the outer hinge. If you look at the shape of the hinge, you can see there where the red line is, it's completely smooth. If you look at the other hinge, it's a different shape. It's got a bulge there. And what that means is when the hinge opens and closes, it has a slightly different action. So the inner hinges on a 3 or 4 door wardrobe
are on the middle door or the middle two doors, and the outer hinge will go on the outer doors. If you get these hinges mixed up, you will have an absolute nightmare trying to mount the doors. Now, in some instructions, it's obvious that the two hinges are different. In others, it's not obvious at all. So that's the outer hinge, and that's the inner hinge.